Jamie here. In this session, I'm going to show you the benefit of policy grandfathering when onboarding new applications. When adopting Lifecycle, you'll often find issues are generated for your existing applications. These issues aren't new, they've always been there. Lifecycle is only highlighting them. The challenge with this is until your team clears those violations, you can't enforce policy actions, like failing the build at release time, and hence preventing critical issues from making it out. With grandfathering, you can acknowledge those existing issues, which then allows you to enforce policy actions at build or release time. It also lets the team see what's new violations compared to what they already had in their application, and then start to triage those new violations and work on the critical ones, while putting the existing violations on their development backlog. So that's what's good about grandfathering. It creates a baseline which then allows you to triage the new violations, deal with the existing critical violations, as well as pay down the backlog of your other existing issues. I'll give you a demo of what it looks like, and in a different session, I'll show you how to configure it. In this demo, I've enabled grandfathering. I've also created an application named WebGoDate. You can see that it has no existing evaluations or scans, and there's no violations. I have two different versions here, 8M14 and 8M21. I'll use that to show how grandfathering works when you're onboarding, and then the effect as you carry on development. So let's go ahead and evaluate the first one, M14. You can see that we've analyzed against the build stage. We have 9 critical violations. If we come take a look, you can see the report here. You can see with grandfathering, we've acknowledged all the existing non-critical issues. So you can see security high is here, and those are the things that we need to work on before we can get the release out. If you want to see what was grandfathered, you can use the grandfathered filter. If you want to see them all together, use the all filter. You can also check out the dashboard. Here I've created 2 filters just to make it a bit easier to switch. Open violations. You can see here's the components that have violations. These are the critical open ones. There's a bunch that have been grandfathered, so let's take a look at what that looks like. Here's all the components that have violations that have been grandfathered. And here's the grandfathered violations themselves. Let's assume that you've done a bunch of development since this initial application's been onboarded. We've muted all those non-critical violations with grandfathering. We've done a bunch of work. We've introduced some new components. Some existing components have some new issues with them. Maybe some new vulnerabilities, or their popularity might have changed. So this is M21 now. Let's evaluate that. Now you can see there's a bunch more that we have to take action on. 4 severe and 22 moderate. Let's go take a look at that report. Again, you can see the number of grandfathered, our new policy alerts. In our summary now, you can see the existing critical violations that we had when we first onboarded the application. But now there's a bunch of new security medium, component unknowns that have been introduced based on new things that we've added to our application since we initially onboarded. And when we initially onboarded, recall, we grandfathered all those violations. There's still a bunch of grandfathered violations. These are the ones that were there when we first onboarded the application. And again, you can go to the All view to see everything. Come back to our dashboard. These are our grandfathered violations. They haven't changed. But now, if we take a look at the open violations, we have a lot more. A bunch of criticals, severes, moderates. And you also can take a look at the components. There's a lot more components now that have issues that we need to look at. That's a brief overview of how policy grandfathering can help you when onboarding existing applications.